Hello my friends, it is Aimee Esther here, and today I wanted to share with you my POTS story, how I was diagnosed, and what I went through to get a diagnosis. If you have POTS, you know getting diagnosed with POTS, it's a real struggle. So if you want to hear more about my story, make sure you keep on watching. I'm so excited that you clicked on this video. If it is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I have lots of videos about my life with POTS and SIBO and endometriosis and PCOS and all the things. I promise I have lots of fun videos for you about my life with POTS and several other chronic illnesses, and I'm a mother and a wife. But today we are just talking about POTS, Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia syndrome. I was diagnosed with POTS. And it took me 3 whole years to get diagnosed. I know some people it takes a lot longer, but I wanted to share my story with you today. I talk about POTS a lot on my channel because it is the main chronic illness that I have. I have a lot of other issues too. I have PCOS and endometriosis and SIBO and chronic migraines, fatigue, all the things, but POTS is kind of like the center of my chronic illnesses, and all the rest of them kind of span from there. So I wanted to make a video just dedicated to how I was diagnosed with POTS. So my chronic pain started with some stomach issues. A week after I got married, my husband and I went out to eat a lot for our honeymoon, and we both got food poisoning. His went away really quick. Mine threw off my gut bacteria like crazy, and I, from that day on, had a stomach ache that still has not gone away. I was since diagnosed with SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which is very common if you have POTS. So my POTS started with stomach issues, which I know a lot of people are backwards. Their POTS symptoms start and then they have stomach issues come because of the POTS. So I am not sure whether my POTS started that day and I just didn't get the fatigue and all the other symptoms until later. But I had some severe stomach issues. About 6 months later, I was teaching high school math, and I started to get really fatigued, and I had been dealing with these stomach issues. I'd been to tons of GI doctors. They did stomach scopes and all these different tests, and I started to have new symptoms that would come up just every month. It seemed like I had a new symptom, and mine started as muscle aches in my legs. So I was teaching school. I was standing all day. If you have POTS, you know that's probably the worst job that I could be doing. But I was standing all day or sitting at my desk with my legs down, and I was getting so sick. By the time I got home from school, I would just lay on the couch. I couldn't do the dishes. I couldn't get out of bed. I was just so sick. And I went to all these doctors, and they would tell me nothing's wrong with me, or they would focus on my stomach issues, or they would focus on my other pain that I was having, or my migraines, or they would just focus on one small thing and not see the whole picture. So I would go to doctors, they would test me for something, and it would come back negative. And I would get so frustrated with them. If you have POTS, you know it is just so frustrating because I had so much blood work. Let me see if I can find this. This is all my blood work just filled up. There's another whole side to this somewhere. This is half of it, and then I have another whole side. All of this, I have a whole binder here. I have so much blood work done, and I went to neurologists, I went to an internist, I went to GI doctors, I went to a holistic doctor, an endocrinologist. I saw so many different doctors, and none of them could tell me what was wrong with me. And they would come back saying, oh, it's just fibromyalgia, or you're just depressed, or they would just come up with these things that were trying to explain my symptoms, and it just wasn't working. And I was finally just diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I totally believe fibromyalgia is a real thing, but I just knew that was not the answer for me. But I had spent so much money, thousands of dollars, on all these tests, and they came back negative. So I thought either this is in my brain, or I just have fibromyalgia, and I just didn't feel right about either of those. And I'm pretty religious, so I was praying about it all the time. And after going to so many doctors for over a year, I just felt like we needed to stop. And I just needed to find a way to live with it. And it was really frustrating because I had to quit my job. I had 4 weeks left in the school year. I was teaching school and I had 4 weeks left, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't get up out of bed every day for that last month, so I quit my job. Fortunately, my school had a kind of a disability leave that they were able to still pay me for the rest of the school year, which was a huge blessing. But my neck is hurting right now. Speaking of POTS symptoms, sorry. You see me touching my neck. I'm trying to sit up straight. Anyways, back to the story. So I quit my job and I just felt like I was crazy. So I just thought, you know what? It's in my head, and I'm just gonna convince myself that it's in my head. And I told myself all of the pain I was having was depression, and then it was just in my head, which, by the way, I was depressed, but I was not depressed and therefore feeling sick. I was feeling sick and therefore depressed, if you know what I'm saying. But I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna tell myself it's depression, that none of the pain I'm feeling is real, it's all in my head. So I totally convinced myself it was in my head, and I tried really hard for a couple weeks just to tell myself it was in my head, to push through, that I wasn't really experiencing physical pain. And I crashed so hard after that, and I knew this is not in my head. There is no way I could feel all this pain, that there's nothing wrong with me. There is something wrong with me. So a year went by after this where I had given up on trying to find answers. I'd given up on any doctor figuring out what was wrong with me, and I just lived with it. I did know that exercise made me feel better most of the time. So I tried to exercise pretty regularly. I wasn't great at it, and I would go really slow if I was having a bad flare-up, and didn't know that was making me worse because I was just standing and I was just going on a short little walk, that I was walking really slow, and that was actually making it worse, when I would have felt better if I would have put in a little more energy into it. But I couldn't figure out why sometimes I'd feel better, sometimes I wouldn't, so I just tried to exercise as much as I could. I knew that I felt better when I got enough sleep, when I wasn't stressed, and when I ate pretty low carbs. And so I did all of those things, but I was still really sick all the time. I worked little side jobs, I tutored, I nannied, I just kind of like did a few little things I felt like I could do. And my husband and I just decided it's time to have our family. And at 6 months pregnant, I went with my husband to visit his aunt and uncle in Chicago. And we were super excited, and we just thought we'd have a chill kind of week there. My husband's aunt has a lot of health problems as well, celiac and some similar symptoms to me, but she had told me that she needed a lot of salt and that she had to wear these compression socks. And my husband, when we got home, said, "You have to try compression socks." And I thought, no way, I've tried everything, nothing works. I've tried all the supplements, all the diets, all the medications. I have tried all the things, and this is not gonna work. But I just humored him and I tried some compression socks. And that very first day, I felt amazing. I had so much energy. I was running around the house. I went to the gym and I cleaned the house, and I went to the store all in the same day, which was amazing. Usually I cannot do all those things in the same day. So I thought, this is just a coincidence, but I tried it again and again, and day after day I felt better and better. And then one day I thought, I am going to not wear them. And mind you, I was 6 months pregnant at the time. So I had a day where I didn't wear them. I felt awful all over again. All my symptoms came back, much worse. And then I wore them again the next day and I felt amazing again. So I went and bought some medical ones, and definitely it was working. So I have a little health Instagram account, Aimee_Esther, if you want to follow me. And I posted on that account saying, I started wearing these socks and they feel amazing, and it's the only thing that's ever helped me. And a sweet girl messaged me and said, I think this is what I have, which is POTS. And I'd heard of POTS before. And so I thought, no, the only thing I know about POTS is people pass out all day long. That's all I'd ever heard. And any article I read, I had my mom send me an article before, like, this sounds like you, but she was passing out all day. And so I'm like, no, I don't pass out. I've never passed out. I might feel like I'm gonna pass out, but I've never actually passed out. So I went to Dysautonomia International, which I will link below because it's an amazing website, lots of good information. They have conferences and all the things. They are so great. So go check them out. But I went to their website and I read all about POTS, and I thought, this is totally what I have. So I tested myself. I tested my heart rate when I lied down. It was, I think, 80 beats per minute. I was pregnant, so a little bit higher than maybe normal people, but it was still normal. Stood up, and within a minute my heart rate was 150 beats per minute, and I was like, oh my goodness, I have figured it out. I have POTS. I knew it. I just was so excited. So I called my doctor, my primary care doctor, who'd been probably the most helpful of all my doctors, and I told him about everything, and he's like, oh yeah, I've heard of POTS, yeah, and he like tells me about it. I said, I need a prescription for the tightest compression socks you can get me. I am fighting this POTS. I went to a POTS conference. I learned all about the things that I needed to do for it, which I have a video about my treatment plan. I will link it below, so you can learn what I do to treat my POTS. But I was so freaking excited to finally have a diagnosis, because for me, the hardest part was feeling like I was crazy. Like, I almost wish they told me I had something super severe, so at least I knew that I wasn't crazy and I would know what to do, because I had no idea what kind of treatment I should be doing for myself, because every single test I ever took came back normal. And what I didn't know was that with POTS, it is a problem with the way your blood circulates. And I know I haven't done a good job of explaining what exactly POTS is, but I explain it a little better in my POTS treatment plan, so go watch that one. But basically, the blood does not circulate. When I stand, my blood pools at my feet, and my blood vessels don't constrict like a normal person to get that blood all up to my vital organs and all of the things. And it causes problems everywhere. If you can imagine not having blood to your digestive system, or not having blood to your brain, and it causes lots of brain fog and things like that. So my biggest symptoms that I was suffering from was brain fog, headaches, stomach issues, fatigue, and muscle aches everywhere. All the muscle aches are so bad. But when I finally got that diagnosis, it all made sense. Everything linked together. All of my issues that I had, from the bottom of my toes to the top of my head, it finally linked together. And before, all of my doctors would try to focus on one little part of my symptoms. They would say, oh, you have headaches, let's send you to a neurologist, and they would only look at my headaches. And then they'd say, oh, you have stomach aches, we're going to send you to a GI doctor and only look at your GI symptoms. But POTS, it just affects every part of my body. So I was so excited, and my daughter is definitely awake from her nap, so I better finish up this video. So I was super excited when I found out that I had POTS, because I knew what to do for it. So if you have POTS, I would love if you hit that subscribe button and that you followed my channel. I talk about POTS a lot, but I also have a lot of other chronic illnesses that I talk about, and I'm a mother, and oh man, my neck is hurting so bad. I'm having some serious neck pain. Maybe I need to lie down, because yeah, the headaches coming, the neck pain. I'm gonna go get my baby, and we're gonna lay down for a little bit. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.